It was Labor Day, 1990, and the air in Starkville, Mississippi, hung thick with the sweet scent of barbecue smoke and the promise of a long, lazy afternoon. My best friend, Kathryn, and I, Betty, had spent the morning preparing for our annual Labor Day cookout. The sun beat down with a relentless intensity, but a gentle breeze rustled through the oak trees in Kathryn's backyard, offering a fleeting respite from the heat. We'd known each other since we were kids, growing up in this quiet, unassuming college town. Labor Day was always our favorite holiday, a final, joyous hurrah before the oppressive summer heat gave way to the crisp autumn air and the return of college students. Kathryn's house, a charming, albeit slightly aging two-story home with a wide, inviting porch, was already buzzing with activity. Our husbands, laughing loudly, were wrestling with the stubborn charcoal grill, a plume of acrid smoke momentarily obscuring them from view. Children, sticky with melted popsicles, chased each other across the manicured lawn, their shrieks of delight echoing through the neighborhood. The cooler was overflowing with iced tea and lemonade, and a mountain of potato salad and coleslaw sat on the picnic table, waiting to be devoured. It was a perfect scene, a snapshot of idyllic American life, a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness. I remember feeling a profound sense of contentment as I watched Kathryn, her face flushed from the heat and the effort, expertly flipping burgers on a smaller auxiliary grill. Her laughter, bright and infectious, was a melody I had known and cherished for decades. We talked about everything and nothing, the kids, the upcoming school year, the latest town gossip, the kind of easy, comfortable conversation that only happens between two people who know each other's souls, the kind of conversation that makes you feel safe, cherished, utterly at peace. As the afternoon wore on, the sun began its slow descent, casting long golden shadows across the yard. The air cooled slightly, and the sounds of the barbecue softened, replaced by the gentle hum of conversation and the occasional clinking of glasses. We were just about to sit down to eat, the aroma of grilled meat and sweet corn filling the air, when a sudden sharp knock echoed from the front door. It was an unexpected sound, a jarring intrusion into our peaceful bubble. Most of our guests had already arrived, and those who hadn't would usually just wander into the backyard. Kathryn, ever the gracious hostess, wiped her hands on her apron and headed inside. Probably just the Johnsons running late as usual, she thought. She chuckled, her voice light and unconcerned. I smiled, taking a sip of my iced tea, my mind already drifting to the delicious meal awaiting us. The children had gathered around the picnic table, their eyes wide with anticipation. The laughter and chatter resumed, a comforting backdrop to the approaching meal. But then, a strange silence fell over the house. It wasn't the comfortable quiet of people settling in, but a sudden unnatural hush that sent a prickle of unease down my spine. The children, sensing the shift, grew quiet, their eyes darting towards the front door. My husband, who had been regaling the other men with a fishing story, paused mid-sentence, his brow furrowed. We exchanged a glance, a silent question passing between us. What was taking Kathryn so long? A faint, muffled sound like a gasp or a choked cry reached us from inside the house. It was barely audible, almost swallowed by the lingering sounds of the barbecue, but it was enough. My heart leaped into my throat, a cold dread beginning to spread through my veins. The idyllic scene of the Labor Day cookout shattered, replaced by a chilling premonition. The sun, which had been so warm and inviting, now seemed to cast an ominous blood-red glow. The gentle breeze felt like a cold whisper, carrying a warning I was too late to heed. The Labor Day celebration, I realized with a sickening lurch, was about to take a terrifying, irreversible turn, and I, Betty, was about to witness a nightmare unfold. A nightmare that would forever stain the memory of this seemingly perfect holiday. The silence from inside the house stretched, growing taut and unbearable, like a violin string pulled to its breaking point. The faint gasp I'd heard replayed in my mind, growing louder with each agonizing second, morphing into a desperate, choked cry. My husband, usually so jovial, had gone pale, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. The other adults exchanged uneasy glances, their casual chatter replaced by a collective, unspoken dread. The children, sensing the shift in atmosphere, huddled closer to their parents, their innocent faces mirroring our growing fear. "Kathryn," I called out, my voice thin and reedy, barely a whisper against the sudden oppressive quiet. There was no answer, only the distant mocking chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. It was too quiet, far too quiet for Kathryn, who was always humming, always bustling, always filling a room with her vibrant presence. A cold knot formed in the pit of my stomach, tightening with each passing moment. My husband, a man of action, was already moving. He strode towards the front door, his steps heavy, purposeful. I followed, my legs feeling like lead, my heart hammering against my ribs. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop, to turn back, to pretend this wasn't happening. But the image of Kathryn's bright, unconcerned smile as she went inside propelled me forward. I had to know. I had to see. As we stepped onto the porch, the air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence. The sweet scent of barbecue smoke was replaced by something acrid, something metallic and cloying, like old blood. The front door, which Kathryn had closed behind her, was now ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning us into the unknown. A chill, unnatural for the warm Labor Day evening, snaked its way up my spine, raising goosebumps on my arms. My husband pushed the door open wider, and the scene that greeted us stole the breath from my lungs. The usually welcoming entryway was a scene of utter chaos. A vase of fresh cut flowers, which had adorned the antique hall table, lay shattered on the floor, water and petals scattered like fallen tears. The small rug, usually pristine, was askew, its pattern obscured by dark, viscous stains. And then I saw her, Kathryn. She lay crumpled at the foot of the stairs, her body twisted at an unnatural angle, her eyes wide and staring, fixed on some unseen horror. Her vibrant dress, the one she had been so excited to wear, was torn, disheveled, and stained with a sickening crimson. A guttural cry, raw and primal, tore from my throat. It was a sound I didn't recognize as my own, a sound born of pure, unadulterated terror and grief. My husband rushed to her side, his face ashen, his hands trembling as he reached for her. But even from where I stood, frozen in the doorway, I knew there was no life left in her. The vibrant, laughing woman I had known for decades was gone, extinguished like a candle in a sudden violent gust of wind. And then I saw him. A shadow detached itself from the deeper gloom of the living room, a figure emerging from the periphery of my vision. He was tall, gaunt, his face obscured by the dim light, but his eyes, even in the shadows, burned with a cold, malevolent intensity. He held something in his hand, something that glinted dully in the fading light, something that dripped. My mind, reeling from the shock, struggled to comprehend. This wasn't the Johnsons. This wasn't a late guest. This was an intruder, a monster. He took a step forward, and the faint light from the doorway caught his face for a fleeting moment. It was a face I had never seen before, yet it was etched into my memory with terrifying clarity. A cruel smile played on his lips, a smile devoid of warmth, devoid of humanity. He was a predator, and we, the unsuspecting hosts of a joyous Labor Day celebration, were his prey. The metallic scent in the air intensified, burning my nostrils, filling my mouth with the taste of iron. The silence, once merely unsettling, now screamed with the unspoken horror of what had just transpired. The children's laughter from the backyard, once a comforting sound, now felt like a cruel, mocking echo, a reminder of the innocence that had just been brutally shattered. This Labor Day, I realized with a sickening lurch, was not just the end of summer, it was the end of everything. And I, Betty, was about to become another victim in this terrifying, unprovoked nightmare. The monster in the shadows took another step, and the glinting object in his hand became horrifyingly clear, a knife, long and wickedly sharp, its blade reflecting the faint light from the open door. A single dark drop of liquid, thick and viscous, slid down the steel, confirming my worst fears. My husband, still kneeling beside Kathryn, looked up, his eyes meeting mine, a silent plea for help, for understanding, for anything to make sense of this senseless horror. But there was no sense to be made, only raw, brutal terror. "Run!" I screamed, my voice cracking, a desperate, futile attempt to break the spell of fear that had paralyzed us. My husband, jolted by my cry, scrambled to his feet, his gaze fixed on the approaching figure. The children's laughter from the backyard, once a distant echo, now seemed to fade entirely, replaced by the deafening roar of blood rushing in my ears. The sweet scent of barbecue was long gone, replaced by the metallic tang of fear and the cloying sweetness of fresh blood. The man moved with an unnerving grace, a predator stalking its prey. He was in no hurry, savoring the terror he had unleashed. His eyes, even in the dim light, held a chilling emptiness, a void that spoke of a soul utterly devoid of empathy. He was not human, not anymore. He was a force of destruction, a nightmare made flesh, and he had chosen our Labor Day celebration as his stage. My husband, despite his terror, instinctively moved to shield me, pushing me behind him. He shouted, "Get out, Betty! Call for help!" His voice was strained but still firm. I hesitated, my mind just screaming in protest. Leave him, leave Kathryn. But you know, the primal instinct for survival, a force stronger than grief or loyalty, it began to assert itself. I stumbled backward, my eyes still fixed on the monster, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. He man lunged, a blur of motion, and my husband, caught off guard, stumbled. I heard a sickening thud, a choked gasp, and then a heavy fall. I didn't need to look. I just knew. The perfect Labor Day, the perfect life was unraveling before my eyes, torn apart by an uninvited guest, a harbinger of pure evil. Tears streamed down my face, hot and stinging, blurring my vision. But I forced myself to move, to run, to escape this living hell. I burst out of the front door, gasping for air, my lungs burning. The backyard, once a scene of joyous celebration, now felt alien, distant. The children, their faces pale and drawn, were huddled together, their eyes wide with terror, their innocent minds struggling to comprehend the sudden shift in atmosphere. The other adults, their faces etched with horror, were staring at the house, their conversations hushed, their laughter gone. They had heard, they had seen enough to know that something terrible had happened. Call the police. He's inside. He killed him. My words, though frantic, seemed to galvanize them. Someone fumbled for a phone, and another rushed to gather the children, pulling them away from the house, away from the unfolding nightmare. I stood there, trembling, my body racked with shivers, my gaze fixed on the open doorway, half expecting the monster to emerge, to continue his gruesome work. The sirens, faint at first, grew louder, closer, their wailing a mournful counterpoint to the lingering silence of the backyard. The flashing lights painted the night in stark, unsettling hues of red and blue. The police arrived, their faces grim, their movements swift and purposeful. They entered the house, their voices muffled, their footsteps heavy. I stood there, numb, watching as my perfect Labor Day, my perfect life, was systematically dismantled, piece by agonizing piece. They emerged later, their faces even grimmer, their eyes holding a profound sadness. They confirmed what I already knew. Kathryn and my husband, both gone, brutally, senselessly murdered on a day meant for celebration, a day meant for rest. The monster, they said, had vanished, melting into the shadows as quickly as he had appeared, an uninvited guest, leaving behind a trail of unimaginable grief and a lifetime of unanswered questions. Labor Day would never be the same. The scent of barbecue, the sound of children's laughter, the warmth of the summer sun, they would forever be tainted by the memory of that day, the day our perfect world shattered. The holiday, once a symbol of rest and freedom, became a chilling reminder of the fragility of life, the suddenness of evil, and the terrifying truth that sometimes the monsters are not in the shadows, but walk among us, waiting for their moment to strike. And I, Betty, was left to pick up the pieces of a life irrevocably broken, forever haunted by the uninvited guest who turned our Labor Day into an eternal nightmare. That wraps up another video, viewers. Before I go, well, let me update you on what's going on. To be honest, I have no clue what to do for the 700 and 800 sub-specials, 'cause the 900, 1,000, and 10,000 sub-specials, I have those mapped out. But from what's left, well, the original idea was to use Verbo or Dub, but as you can see, those didn't work out too well. So now I'm in a pickle with that. Now that's where you viewers come in. Let me know in the comments what the 700 and 800 sub-special should be about. If I don't receive any suggestions, then I'll just figure something out. hopefully soon. Other than that, the birthday horror story that I wanted to do didn't work out due to poor internet, where I was for a little getaway during my birthday. So that video will have to wait till my anniversary of this channel, which who knows, I might go live or figure something else out. Regardless, as you can see, I still have my work cut out for me, and admittedly, I think I was a little too ambitious with all these sub specials, but to me, it's a big deal, since this literally is my first YouTube channel. It just hits different, I suppose. But anyway, thanks again for you folks who are consistent and always sticking around. You all are the best and will always be to me. But now I must return to the show, 'cause remember, we're always watching.